In this video, we continue to celebrate 25 years of excellence with the Raabe Prize for Excellence in Sacred Composition. This month, we get to listen in on a conversation between prize winner Erik Meyer and ALCM member Jean Boehler as they discuss Erik's St. John Passion, winner of the 2017 Raabe Prize.
Hi, my name is Jean Boehler, and I'm a member of ALCM and serve on the board. And I'm delighted to welcome Erik. Welcome, Erik.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for doing this and for all your compositions that you have provided in the years. Perhaps we can start off with just asking you a little bit about your musical background.
Sure. I'll tell you the whole story. When I was very young, both my parents are musicians. They met at the University of Iowa. And my mother was a church organist when I was a baby, I don't know, my fifth or sixth year of life before we moved to Philadelphia. So I remember playing the piano as a very tiny person, but I also, be honest, I wasn't that 5-year-old genius who was, playing amazing things. I was more of your standard kid who, fought back against taking lessons. My father is a flutist and worked at the Curtis Institute in Philadelphia, which is why we moved to Philly. And at that point, growing up in Collingswood, New Jersey, and took piano lessons with David Bryant. And then probably the most important person to mention here is J. Bert Carlson. Bert was the music director at my church, Lutheran Church of Our Savior in Haddonfield. And he was also an ordained minister. And at one point, he decided to stop doing the music and to return to full-time being a pastor. When he did that, I was 13, and he was assigned a very tiny church, 3 churches that were merging into one. And he reached out to me and said, "Would you be interested in taking organ lessons with me and playing for my church?" And I was, and it was a rough start. But I had grown up singing the LBW setting, so I sort of knew what was going on. But after about 6 months, I really sort of got things figured out, and it was a pretty low stakes thing. But I fell in love with the organ. I fell in love with church music and choirs and all that stuff, and that's sort of where it all took off.
Wonderful. How wonderful to have a mentor like that as you were growing up. You have composed a variety of music over the years, as I was reading, sacred works, numerous anthems, a mass, canticle settings, psalms, and solo instrumental works. Why a passion?
It's interesting hearing you say all these other genres I've composed for. Like my mass, for example. My mass has not been performed. It was written for my friend's wedding.
Lovely.
And it's a long story, but the short of it was it was a little bit demanding of choral forces, and they didn't have time to put it together. But a lot of my canonical settings were written, and this passion were written very specifically for a liturgical function that needed to be fulfilled. What was happening was I was serving at the Church of St. Martin in the Fields, an Episcopal church in Philadelphia, and every Good Friday they had a sung passion as part of their tradition. And what they had was a setting that was just a plain song chant, sort of like just a psalm tone, and like 10 notes tops. And we just read the Bible with notes attached to it. And I thought that we could do a little better than this. And so I pulled out the Heinrich Schütz passions, and of course they're all in German. And so I thought, well, let's see what I can do. So I started translating it. This was the dumbest thing I've ever done. I'm going to translate the Schütz Passion. I have 3 weeks before Good Friday, but I'm going to do it. And sometimes in the German Bible, what is 20 syllables is 6 syllables in the English Bible. And I started, writing melismas, and then sometimes I had to add extra notes, and it got so crazy. I just said, forget it. I'm going to just write my own. So this was born out of necessity. It was born under a deadline, and I had a very, I knew my choir, of course, and had very specific resources in mind. And that's sort of why it happened. But I also think that in many ways, that's why it ended up being successful. I think having the pressure of just having to get it done.
We all need deadlines. And Eric, I appreciate, and perhaps anyone viewing this would appreciate, how composing does not have to be daunting. It often is born out of necessity in your specific locale. And how encouraging for us unpublished musicians who just try to get through our Sundays and do what works in our setting. That's a noble and good thing. So, but I am glad that your works did get published too. A setting of the Passion is certainly a major composition, and your St. Mark's Passion, I timed it, is over 28 minutes long. And I just was wondering if you see this as a choral composition for the concert hall, or if you feel it could be done in a liturgical setting as you first did it in.
No, I think it always was intended for liturgy. I don't see it as a concert piece, to be honest. It all sits in one key. That's intentional. There is some variation within the chanting of the text. I wanted it to be, this is a reading, right? This is like a gilded reading of the Passion text, and not some kind of an artistic offering. I knew I had limited rehearsal time, and I needed something that my singers could sing well. And again, gild the reading without getting in the way of it.
Indeed. And that certainly comes through in your composition. And I appreciate your sensitivity to the congregation being involved in recognizing familiar chorales. And the major one you use is Herzliebster Jesu, Our Dearest Jesus, and was wondering why you chose that one. And also, I looked in my hymnal, and there are 15 verses. And your setting contains 5. So maybe you can address why you chose Herzliebster Jesu, and also why you chose the 5 stanzas that you did.
Sure. So why did I choose the hymn itself? Somebody told me, and I spent the morning looking through a bunch of old hymnals, and I couldn't find it. Somewhere it says that Herzliebster Jesu is the hymn for Good Friday. It's somehow associated with the Passion reading, and I don't want to be quoted on that because I couldn't find it, but I was told that at one point, and so for me, that hymn always just was tied into the Passion reading. To be honest, though, the 5 specific verses, this was a liturgical use, and those were the 5 that were in the hymnal.
Sure.
And they were great.
And you also use another tune, Jesu meine Freude, very creatively. I had to look for it, and then I started identifying some rhythms and melodic motifs. Can you talk about how you used Jesus' priceless treasure, Jesu meine Freude, in your Passion?
Yeah, I was looking at it. I have the score here. It's not anything. Again, it's not. I don't think it's a very artistic choice. I may have just been at that point. I think it's if you believe this, man, you are no friend of the emperor. Anyone who claims himself a king is not a friend of the emperor. I think that was the text. I think at that point it was 2/3 of the way through, and I had a deadline, and I thought, well, we'll just borrow an oldie but a goodie. It wasn't anything deeper. I wasn't trying to evoke the text of Jesu meine Freude. Just a good tune. Just a good tune.
Indeed, it is. Indeed. And let's just talk a little bit about the role of the congregation and the role of the choir. For some, it might be very daunting in a parish, a small parish, perhaps with limited resources, to do a work like a Passion. But can you talk about the role of the choir and the congregation and the soloists in your composition?
Yes. So again, sort of modeled after the German Passion, which I loved so much. So the congregation has a hymn, Herzlich für Jesu, 5 verses interspersed throughout the Passion at different key moments. There's an SATB choir, which acts as the crowd, or the people within the Passion itself. Those choruses are always the biblical texts. There are no texts of reflection, arias, that sort of thing. It's always just the biblical text. And then various characters sing the rest of the text. One person, commonly called the evangelist, acts as a narrator and reads the part of the Passion which is not people speaking. And then the various characters are given it as well. It could be sung with just a narrator singing the whole text on their own. So if you have one particular very strong singer with a lot of stamina, it could be done that way. And in every performance of this, it has never been perfect, and it has never been note perfect to what is written, and that's 100% fine. I tell my singers immediately, if you want to rewrite it, rewrite it. Change the notes to whatever fits what you want to do, because it was never intended to be like a precious object that can't be changed. So my singers have always changed it, both the ancillary characters, the Jesus role, as well as the evangelist role. So,
and that approach in your composition, I think, will be encouraging for anyone who would like to do this piece, to realize that you do have flexibility for it. And getting back to the chanting too, it felt very, very natural. And what I noticed is you really distinguished the role of Jesus lower. It was lower in range, and that was just interesting to really differentiate that Jesus is the center of this, and we need to listen to this, and to compose the Passion, which is the heart of our faith, takes courage and discernment and wisdom. And how blessed we are in ALCM to have a work like yours that we thought so much of, is to give the Raabe Prize for. And in closing, do you have any words that you would like to say to encourage our parishes and our directors of music to try it?
oh, sure. Yeah. It's if you have, I would say to any congregation, if you have. So let me back up. I have a version of this which includes a keyboard reduction. It is not on the Music Spoke website where you can purchase the score, but I'm happy to give those out. Again, because when it was created, we didn't use the organ on Good Friday. It was just silent for that day. But I also reckon, I've worked with many different choirs, and sometimes you need to have the keyboard, supporting, and so that does exist. I don't want people to think of this as a untouchable work of high art. It's meant to gild the Passion narrative. It's meant to gild that. So if you have a couple singers, it's written for SATB, but if you're using the keyboard part, I see no reason why you couldn't even have just a couple singers sing those turba choruses. I mean, I could almost see this being sung with 2 or 3 people, just with some creative arrangement. And I would be absolutely for that, just to have it be used. So yeah. And I also say, one of the things that I've encountered so many times in my life, which just makes you want to scream, is people will often say to me, "Well, I'm not really an organist, or I'm not really a choir director, but I direct the choir at my church." And I just want to say, are you playing the organ? Then you are an organist. Are you directing the choir? Then you're a choir director. And this piece that I wrote was successful, and I'm proud of it, and I'm very happy with the way it came out. But it really was born out of just like anybody else in the world, there was a need, and I jumped on it. And there are other times that I, tried to fulfill a need and probably was less successful. And that's okay too. So I would encourage people to not look at people like these dead people like Bach and think, I'm never going to be that. Woe is me. I'm just going to, buy music in the store. I would say just go do it. Just go do it and let it. If it's bad, it's bad. But you know what? You made it for the moment, and how wonderful is that there was this moment in time when your offering came to life somehow. So if I could encourage people to do anything, it's just to uh, not let those voices in the back of your head tell you not to do it. Because uh, in the catalog we get each year from the various publishers, they have to look for certain things that fulfill certain criteria, but that it's not a one size fits all, right? Every church has a slightly different need, and you as the choir director, you're the one who's best equipped to uh, fulfill that need. So jump into the pool and get writing.
Get writing, and then also feel comfortable in adapting your piece and doing something beautiful on Good Friday to proclaim Jesus Christ died for us and he is risen during Holy Week. And I hope, Eric, that through this you feel supported by ALCM through this interview, and certainly when you receive the prize. And it's a privilege to be a part of this project that Adam Hughes is coordinating. And we, as ALCM, just continue to support each other. And as our mission statement says, we nurture and equip musicians to lead the church's song. Thank you so much.
Thank you.